Okay, what's going on YouTube? Lee and Sam here from FPL Family, back with another Fantasy Football Scout video. A Q&A for you today. Game Week 38 coming thick and fast. The Project Restart has gone in the blink of an eye, frankly. It's over before it's even started. Liverpool champions, don't know if I've mentioned that.
No.
A lot of FPL managers going to be on free hits, though, for Game Week 38. So we do have quite a few questions in today's Q&A about free hit, but also some more generic questions about Game Week 38. So without further ado, Sam, first question is absolutely made for you. It's tailor-made for you.
Is it about Spurs?
It is about Spurs, and I think a lot of FPL managers are now considering Spurs, given the slight renaissance they're having towards the end of this season. So Pride FC _ FPL, so at Pride FC _ FPL says, should we consider, Sam, Spurs assets versus Crystal Palace? And then there's a subsequent question about who's the better pick, Kane or Aubameyang. So we'll talk about the Kane and Aubameyang in a second and who you're going with on your free hit, if not both, maybe. But Spurs assets, should we be considering for Crystal Palace?
Yeah, absolutely. Spurs defensively have been really solid. 3 clean sheets in the last 5 game weeks. Looking really good. Serge Aurier in particular from that back line looks like a decent pick, and that's something I never thought I'd say.
Brilliant character from Aurier, given what's going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely outstanding
Fantastic
from
stuff.
him, and has been really on it and really calm.
Yes.
So that you don't fear having him.
It's a new Aurier, isn't it? I haven't seen this for a while.
For sure. So I think he's a really nice pick. Obviously, the goalkeeper was outstanding in the game in Game Week 37 against Leicester. Got some bonus points there. So there were some decent defensive options from Spurs. And then obviously, as always with Spurs, there's a wealth of opportunity in the middle. Obviously, Son is the kind of go-to, I would guess. But
Tell me what you think about Lucas Moura, though, because Lucas Moura is going to be coming up against a Patrick Van Aanholt-less Crystal Palace. We know PVA's injured. We know that he's obviously a big linchpin in that back four there for Crystal Palace. No Gary Cahill's still out for the season. Lucas Moura could get some joy on that side, couldn't he?
I think so. And at the beginning of Project Restart, we weren't necessarily sure that Moura was going to get the game time. There was always that fear of rotation with the likes of Dele Alli, who of course is out, Steven Bergwijn, who seems to be coming on for sort of 20 minutes at the end of the game. But Lucas Moura does seem to have kind of solidified himself in Mourinho's starting lineup. So I think he's a really nice option, so much cheaper than Son. And particularly going into that next part of the question that you asked about Kane or Aubameyang, there is definitely a case for having both if you are free hitting.
Expensive.
But it's very expensive. So if you're going to go with the likes of Kane and Aubameyang, you're probably going to want Salah in there. You're going to want your City midfielders. It's all very, very, very expensive. So saving a little bit of money by having Lucas Moura over Son is potentially
I thought you were going to say Lucas Moura over Kane, but no, Kane is locked in for you, isn't he?
I think so. I think Kane looks like... We know that Kane is very much a form player. He loves the end of the season, always goes on a little run of goal-scoring form.
Bang on it, doesn't he? Yeah.
And has looked bang on it for the last few games now. So yeah.
Your Game Week 38 captain is?
Oh, Harry Kane.
You know it's Harry Kane, guys. You know it's Harry Kane. So there we go. Sam would absolutely pick Harry Kane. Question number 2 coming in from at FPL _ game plan. Thank you for the question. Do you think it is worth tripling, Sam, on the Burnley defence to afford the big hitters in attack? So we've just touched on the fact there that if you want Kane, Aubameyang, Salah, KDB, all those guys, if you want to be trebling up on City in attack given their nice fixture, you're going to have to scrimp and save somewhere. Maybe it's at the back with Burnley.
Yeah, and as you, sorry to bring this up, but as you learnt this week because of your Charlie Taylor injury, not having a Burnley defender hurts, right?
I kind of felt like I was coming into the game week starting on -6 because I was so convinced there was going to be a clean sheet there. Loads of Nick Pope owners out there in the FPL community, no doubt.
And Peters.
And Peters, of course, you brought Peters in for Game Week 37, which was a great move. Didn't even dream that he'd get a clean sheet assist and bonus points, but lovely 12 points there. So he's looking like a pretty good shout. Charlie Taylor was looking like a really good shout at only 4.3. I was very happy to have him in my team up until the point he got injured. So reluctantly, now he's sitting 3rd on my bench. So if you've got Nick Pope and you've got Peters, I think that's enough. And the reason I think that's enough is because I think if you wanted to go treble Burnley, a little cheeky punt on Chris Wood up top. Still a big differential. Still well under 10% owned. 2 goals in 2 games now. In fact, Chris Wood?
Yeah, I do. I think that he's a nice option. I also think in terms of trebling up at the back, it's difficult because there are a number of teams this week that I think have good opportunities for clean sheet. And with trebling up at the back with Burnley, if they happen to let one go, which I don't think they will because they're all very much keen to get Nick Pope the Golden Gloves this
now,
season.
did you hear those comments? Who was that after that game, after the last Burnley game? Was it Tarkowski? One of the Burnley players, might even have been Chris Wood, was coming out and saying, you know, we know that Nick Pope is on the cusp of greatness here. Golden Gloves in the Premier League would be some achievement. Absolutely. For a Burnley stopper when you consider the calibre of goalkeeper we've got in the Premier League. For Nick Pope to get that after the season he's had, upcoming Euro 2021 championships coming up, I think they really want him to get it, and I think they're hell-bent on him getting it.
But I do think that if you've got Nick Pope and you've got one other, that's probably okay. I think you can go with one of the other options on clean sheets, like the likes of Spurs, who have already touched on, who just gives you that little bit of leeway just in case the worst happens.
You never know what's
Burnley.
going to happen. I honestly thought game week 37, the Sheffield United clean sheet was locked in, and then Richarlison dashed all our hopes, didn't he? There's FPL managers on Henderson, and I've got Ender Stevens, and there's Egan people. I mean, Egan didn't start, did he? So you never quite know what you're going to get at this end of the season. So treble Burnley defence feels a bit all eggs in all baskets to me. All eggs in one basket, I should say. But if you want to double up, that's good, I think. That's all good. And Nick Pope should be one of them. There we go. There's FPL game plans questions. So question number 3, thank you to @Dibendu, is saying, is the double Liverpool defence viable against Newcastle? Double Liverpool defence is something that...
Can't do that with treble Burnley defence.
Well, this is it. Yeah. So Liverpool double defence has been a pretty popular strategy throughout the season, right? And for good reason, because Liverpool have been defensively very, very good, clean sheet after clean sheet. If you want to go Trent and Robertson and spend all your money in defence, then a lot of managers have been going there. Even more so recently, the kind of dropping that down to a Van Dijk or a Gomez to sort of get that extra 6 to go alongside typically Trent, although it's Robertson actually that's been probably the livelier since the restart. But Trent plus one other still looks like a good strategy. Now, going away to Newcastle is not going to be that easy. We know that they're defensively looking pretty poor, Newcastle, since the restart. But offensively, I can think of the game against Bournemouth. Now, don't get me wrong, Bournemouth were pretty bad that game, but Newcastle have got it in their armoury with Alan St-Maximin as a bit of a wild card. I'm not sure a lot of defenders know how to play this guy sometimes. You've got Joe Linton with a bit of presence up there and Marcus Gale up there too with him. I think since Steve Bruce has switched to those 3, particularly with Gale and Joe Linton up front, that's worked really well as a dynamic, and that could give Liverpool problems. If you look at the way Liverpool have defended since the restart, not been that great, and we know the Championship is won. Don't know if I've mentioned that. But the foot is well and truly off the gas, and Liverpool have looked defensively sloppy, not least in that game against Arsenal when there was 2 mistakes that led to 2 goals. But even outside that, it's not looked that great.
I've been spending a lot of time looking at the Liverpool defence on the basis that obviously with my free hit going to be active for game week 38, I kind of have a bit of free choice in terms of which Liverpool defender I go with. What's really interesting is that if you look at the stats for Newcastle in terms of headed chances that they have conceded, they've conceded 120, which is more than anyone else.
Oh, okay.
So Van Dijk looks like a really nice option because he's obviously up there for the corners.
So does Trent for the assist then in that case?
So does Trent for the assist. So if you're looking to double up, it's probably those 2 in case they lose the defensive clean sheet, because then there's at least potential for attacking returns. But to own both Trent and Van Dijk is really difficult given what we've already been talking about how we want the likes of Kane, we want Son, we want the Man City mids. It's all very, very budget heavy, and therefore there isn't necessarily, apart from Gomez, a cheap option at Liverpool. So I think one's okay.
Okay, despite what you just said then, I love the stat about the Newcastle headed attempts. Robertson actually is the player on form in that Liverpool backline, right? After what can only be described as a very hungover performance against Man City and subsequent dropping out of the team to get his head straight. He has got his head straight. He's come back, scored a wonderful header against Burnley, if I remember rightly. Followed that up with an assist for Mane's goal in the last game week in 36. So he's actually one that's showing a little bit of attacking form. A word for Robbo, or do you like this stat about headed attempts conceded by Newcastle?
I do like that stat, and I do, and it is it's sort of swaying me towards having Van Dijk in my free hit team. You just can't get away from Trent and the set piece potential I think that he has. I do like Robertson as a pick. I wouldn't swap him out. If I had Robbo and I wasn't on a chip of any kind, I wouldn't transfer him out to bring in one of the others.
No.
But would I bring him in ahead of game week 38? Probably not. I probably wouldn't use a transfer for a Liverpool defender just because we have seen that they aren't as solid as we were seeing early on in the season.
And on your free hit, it kind of depends where you're spending your money. If you're going Kane and Aubameyang, as you mentioned before, pretty unlikely that you're going to go Trent and Robbo at the back, unless you're going uber sort of Peters, etc. at the back from Burnley. But listen, depends how you're going to spend your free hit pounds. But I think Trent is still locked, don't you?
Maybe.
Trent is still... Oh, maybe. You like Van Dijk, don't you? Van Dijk header incoming at St James's Park at the weekend. You heard it here first. Question number 4 at FPL_Steve. Thank you for the question, Steve. He's saying, which Man City player, Sam, is the one to captain in game week 38? Now, there's an interesting question
say, don't you,
from FPL Steve, because you've already indicated that your captain is going elsewhere outside of Manchester City. You're going for Kane by the sounds of it. But listen, Man City, Norwich at home, it does not get any better than that.
It
and
doesn't.
if you're free hitting, you've got 3 of them at least, surely, and you're going to take your pick.
Yes, I totally agree. But I also think that there is an element of the points are going to be spread in that Man City team. It's, it could easily be 8-0, let's be honest.
Poor old Norwich.
But it could be, but they could be from 8 different goal scorers. So there is no one guy at Man City that I think is going to get all of the points in that game. It's not like
you couldn't hang your hat on somebody and say, right, bang, he's going to get a double.
No, it's not like at
haul.
Arsenal going Aubameyang or at Liverpool going Salah.
Yeah.
It's different, isn't it, at Man City, because there's so many. But if I was going to take a City player to captain, obviously Sterling I think is a great option. I think Jesus is a great option, but I put it on David Silva. Last Premier League match for the
You
club.
old football romantic.
Last Premier League match for the club. They're looking for him, surely. He goes out on a high.
If they get a penalty in that game,
He takes it.
do you think David Silva's
Yeah,
captain? Do you?
Absolutely think he takes
Pep
it.
has got I'm not sure. I think Pep is...
I think they look for him all day long. The whole match.
To go out on a high,
Every time
Silva.
David Silva's anywhere near the box, I bet you they're looking. Where is he?
Well, listen, one thing's for sure, Norwich need to tighten up on their discipline after going down to 9 men last game week.
Problems.
They're going to have suspension problems if they go down to even 10 men against City. It's going to be hard enough with 11, frankly. Never mind going to the Etihad against a full-strength Man City team. And I think we will see a full-strength Man City team.
Yeah.
I know your point about the rotation there. Of course, we say it every single week on these videos, on our videos, on the FPL Family. It's so hard to predict what Pep's going to do. But with a fixture like that, given that Pep talks also about rhythm and momentum going into obviously the last rounds of the Champions League in Lisbon in August, he's going to want to play Sterling and KDB and Jesus, isn't he? Because he's want to keep their eye in.
They're out the FA Cup now, and that will really annoy Pep that they're out the FA Cup, and so they haven't got that element to play for anymore. So I think that there's no need for him to rotate them in the league anymore. I mean, obviously they've still got a game to play in game week 37. And then this final game in game week 38. But I would expect full strength pretty much in game week 38. And obviously you will get the standard going off at 60 minutes or probably just before, because Pep loves a 59-minute substitution. Just to annoy us, I think he does it. But yeah, I think whoever you pick at City, there's likely to be... You'd have to be really unlucky to pick a City player and not get any returns, I think, against
So you
Norwich.
would go David Silva. To answer Steve's question, you would go David Silva, captain in game week 38. If you were going to go Man City, David Silva.
Yeah. Who would you go?
Interesting, isn't it? I think I would...
You'd be boring and put it on Sterling,
I'm so boring at the minute in FPL. I'd probably say KDB, which is like such a boring thing to do in game week 38. I'm going to go football romanticist. I'll go David Silva as well. Listen, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. Even if Sterling gets benched, if KDB gets benched, they'll come on and do damage against a tired and weary and relegated Norwich. So, listen, I think any of them are good options. But David Silva for the romanticists out there. Love it. There we go, Steve. Final question from @FPL Risk Taker. Thank you for the question. Is it advisable, Sam, to take a minus 12 points hit? From game week 38. Minus 12 points hit if I'm going to play the bench boost. So here is FPL Risk Taker. He's going to play the bench boost. Presumably his bench is not looking in great shape for the bench boost chip right now. Maybe he's got some non-playing players in there. Maybe he's got a Charlie Taylor knocking about. He can fix that and have a great bench for the bench boost chip, but it's going to cost him a minus 12. Is that advisable?
I wouldn't. Have you taken a minus 4 since we've been back?
No, I have not.
So I have once to swap him for Pulisic, and it did work out in terms of, obviously, Pulisic has done so much better than Bergwijn was doing. But actually, in terms of my overall rank, it just meant that I just stagnated for ages. That game week, which should have been a nice green arrow, just wasn't. It was a bit of a red arrow, and it took me a game week to get back into it again after that. Because it's all so tight everywhere at the moment. That is minus 4 really hurts.
Well, the other thing is, since we've come back from the restart, we've got sort of 8 weeks to just attack it. And I think there's a lot of FPL managers that weren't engaged in the game coming back for a start. And a lot of those managers that are out there have got these chips to play. And we haven't really seen, bench boost must be 33 or free hit must be 34. No. So there's a kind of like a sort of smattering of chips in each of the weeks as well, which of course is sort of bumping up the overall average. Yeah. So if you take that into account and say that the average FPL game week, based on that sort of fairly loose theory, is going to be 2 or 3 points more than you would expect a chipless end of season to be, then if you take a -4, you're kind of like 7 or 8 points, sort of -7 or 8 points before you even start in a game week.
Let alone a -12.
And that is going to hurt your rank. If you're up there and you're up in the top 100k, I don't know where you are, risk taker, but if you're up there in the top 100k, starting on -6, -7 is going to hurt that rank. And you're absolutely right. Taking a -12 with that sort of 2 or 3 points, and again in game week 38, it's going to be free hit central, right? Yeah. Loads. I think I saw a stat.
And there's some triple captains knocking about.
Absolutely,
as well.
Absolutely. I saw on Fantasy Football Scout actually in the forums that a third of the top 10k of managers, you being one of them, Sam, are playing the free hit this week. It is going to be ultra competitive. So starting on a -12 is a bad move in my opinion.
And the other thing that we should just say is that there is the last game week of the season. It's the one thing that put me off free hitting this week is that there are always unexpected benching, substitutions, players coming on. Liverpool players that haven't got enough. I don't know if there are any. They haven't got enough games for a medal yet. Blah blah blah. There's all of that kind of stuff that comes into play. FA Cup final coming up. There is an element of risk. So you pick the players that you think are guaranteed to play. If you've got a bench of, say, Charlie Taylor, Lascelles, people that 100% do not get any game time in game week 38, then it's probably worth a hit to replace them.
If you're sure they're going to play.
But you've got to be 100% certain for me that they wouldn't be starting it. Maybe one. I might be able to get on board with a -4, but I can't get on board with a -12. Listen, it's so tough.
The key word you said there was risk. This is at FPL Risk Taker, so maybe Risk Taker is going to take the risk on the -12. I don't think it'd be for me, and I don't think it'd be for you either. -12 at this stage of the season. We are, guys, of course, in the final game week of the season, game week 38 this weekend. All games kick off at the same time, so join Gianni, myself, Andy and Toby for a Scoutcast match day. We're going to be reacting live to all the games as they come in. I genuinely don't know what game I'm going to watch. I'm maybe going to have one on the TV, one on my iPad, one on my laptop. Just going to be watching maybe 3 games, and Andy and Toby and Gianni and I are just going to do our absolute best to react to those. So join us live if you can.
You'll hear me from
Sunday.
The other room if Kane scores.
You will absolutely hear Sam if Captain Kane scores in game week 38. No doubt about it. But listen, guys, well done this season. It's been a very, very difficult season. We've loved doing these videos. Loved having you along for the Q&As. Thank you for sending your questions in. If you've liked this video, leave us a like before you go. Hit that big red subscribe button on the Fantasy Football Scout website, and I will see you for Scoutcast Match Day on Sunday for Game Week 38. Cheers, guys.
Bye.